Welcome to a new season of Open Oven. My name is Mike Smith. I'm really happy to be back for another season. This is a cooking show. I am not a chef. I'm just a person who likes to cook. And the focus of most of the recipes that we do here are recipes that you can do relatively easily. They're not expensive recipes, something that you can go and get a minimal amount of ingredients, a lot of things that you happen to have in your kitchen to begin with, and things that you can create relatively easy. A lot of people I know, when I've come across people that have seen the show, they're interested in the show because there are recipes that they can create relatively easily. A lot of people who watch are not cooks. They don't cook a whole lot, but they're looking for ideas. And I think, like we all do, you search the internet if you're looking for something new and you're looking for recipes. And that's kind of where we are. And so we're going to do recipes this season again along the same lines, something that you can do relatively easy. Today, we have a classic recipe that is apple pie. A lot of people really are afraid of baking, especially men who get terrified of baking. They're worried that something's going to go wrong. This is a really, really simple recipe. It obviously starts with the apples. Today, we're going to make the pie with Granny Smith apples. You could really use any type of apple. I generally like to use fresh apples. So if I have an apple tree, I can pick those apples. You could try it with crab apples. I think you would have to mix in Granny Smith's. And even when I use some type of red apple, whether that be off the tree or something, I usually will mix in Granny Smith's. I'm not sure really why. They say, if you do a lot of research, they say the best apple pies are Granny Smith apples. Like I said, I mix in some sweeter apples and comes out wonderful either way. But today we're going to do the entire pie with Granny Smith apples. We obviously have washed our apples and are ready to go. So looking for maybe 4 or 5 apples to begin with, and we've got to obviously take the skin off. I'll admit this. I'm terrible at, for whatever it is, peeling apples or fruit. I'm going to try both for those of you who have peelers and your paring knife or your small knives, and we're going to try to peel these. We're not going to save the peels for any particular reason. You could if you were wanting to use them for something. And I don't generally use a peeler. You can see why, because I'm not very good at it. So I'll give this one apple, and then I'm going to get my knife out and go use that. But you're basically taking most of the skin out. You don't have to have every bit of skin off the apple. It's not going to make a difference. We know there's still lots of nutrients in the skin, but you definitely want to take the majority of the skin off the apple. I give up already. We're going to go to the knife. Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to end up, before I cut these, we're going to put them in a bowl of water, and you're going to use a bowl of water, salted water. That'll keep the apples from browning. Again, you're cooking the apples. Some people are really caught up on, and if you watch and I sit that apple there, it'll slowly will begin to brown. A lot of people don't like that. They're offended by the apple getting a little bit brown. So if you want to avoid that, you can, as you're cutting them, you can put the apples into a bowl of water. Salted water will actually help them keep them from browning. Like I told you, this is peeling is definitely not my specialty. And if you have lots of apples, then you never have to worry about it too much. The cost of apples, of course, have gone, like most groceries, the cost of apples have gone up there. I mean, a bag of apples, depending on where you live now, is $7, $8, $9 a bag. So you obviously don't want to be wasting. And we're going to talk about coring those apples here shortly. I would say for the recipe I'm going to talk about asks for 7 apples. We're going to use a little bit less than that today. But like I said, the recipe that we're going to show, and we'll put that recipe up, you will have seen that recipe, but we'll talk about exactly what's going to be in the filling, is designed for 7 apples. We're going to take that big one. But to save some time, we're probably good with probably 5 or 6. And if you're hungry, you can always eat an apple slice or a piece of skin. For any of you that watched the show last year, you'll know that I'm diabetic. So one of the things we're going to look at is we're going to look at how can we do this recipe and maybe change some of the sugar. Keep some of that sugar down. Where can we use sugar substitutes? So we're going to look at that once we get ready to go here right after the break. And I'll show you some substitutes. Even if you're not diabetic, there are, for instance, non-sugar brown sugars that you can use that I honestly can't taste the difference. And a lot of times they taste just as sweet as regular sugar does, or regular brown sugar. So you can absolutely, for sure, use sugar substitutes in this recipe. A lot of times, for somebody that's diabetic or worried about their sugar input, eating apple pies is very high. I mean, you have crust, you have the filling. Apples themselves have a lot of carbs in them for a fruit, so it's a way to look out for that and cut down that sugar, and still taste just as good as if you didn't do that. Most apple pie recipes call for regular granulated sugar and brown sugar, and like I said, we're going to take a look at a recipe that you can adjust some of those things so you can keep your carb levels down. So 6, we'll go for 1 more apple, and we'll have our 7 apples, and we'll get ready to make the filling and talk about what we need to do with the oven and all those things right after the break. And there we go. We're ready to core those. We'll be right back and get at coring those and get them ready for the oven. All right, welcome back. So I'm getting our pie filling ready, slicing the apples. I'm using this kind of tool. You don't have to use this if you want to just use your regular apple corer, and then a knife. You can do it however you like. It is important to try to make sure that the apple slices are similar. You're looking for about a 1/2 inch. This one's a little bit thicker, but it's important to have the apple slices similar size. Obviously, when you're baking them, this recipe is a total of about 55 minutes of baking. You want your slices to be similar size so that they're cooking about the same amount. So we'll get all those in there. I think that's good enough for what we need. And now we're going to add the ingredients. I don't actually you're not going to actually heat this. So, excuse me, as we know, being a diabetic, there's all kinds of substitutes we can do here. This is going to ask for a total of 1 cup of sugar. I'm going to use a 1/2 cup of regular sugar. And then instead of brown sugar, I'm going to use a brown sugar blend. And this happens to be a sugar substitute. It's called brown sugar blend. And I'm going to use a 1/2 cup of that. That will, again, keep the sugar content down, but certainly make the pie more than sweet enough. So we'll put that in there. We have 2 tablespoons of flour. That's going to obviously give us help us out with the thickness part of it. We're going to use some cinnamon. If you're not a cinnamon person, you do not have to use the cinnamon. I can go either way on that. A lot of people obviously like cinnamon. 1 teaspoon, you don't want to be overbearing. So we'll sprinkle that in there. It's probably more than enough. And another thing that you can use, if you like to use nutmeg, you can include nutmeg. I'm looking at about 1/8 of a teaspoon, so I'm actually have whole nutmeg. I'm just going to grind some in there. Again, you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but it's kind of flaking in there. And we'll put a little bit of nutmeg in there as well. Again, that's all for flavor. We want to put about a teaspoon of lemon juice. If you don't have lemon juice or you don't want to use lemon juice, you can use apple juice. Obviously making apple pie, but just gives it a little bit of that acid, right? That little bit of tartness. So we'll use about a teaspoon of apple juice. We're going to start to mix that up. This is our filling again. You see, they want to coat those apples really, really well with that sugar. Okay, we're going to set that aside for a second. If you want to make your own apple pie shells, by all means do that. If you want to make an easy apple pie and a little bit shorter, you're going to buy yourself a store-made apple pie plates. I'm going to put one aside. Of course, one's going to go on the top. I keep them in the fridge till about 10 or 15 minutes before you're ready to use them. And then I'll put them at room temperature for 10 or 15 minutes. We're going to fill that up with our filling. You can overflow it because, of course, if you think about deep dish apple pie or an apple pie that's nice and thick, that looks pretty good. That's a pretty good start. And then basically you're going to take this carefully. You're going to take the pie crust and you're going to put it on top. Sometimes depending on the pie shells, you might have to water the edges if you really want to meld the two crusts together. But normally, you don't have to worry too much about that because it's going to bake together anyway. So I'm just going to pinch that, and this happens to be sticking really nicely. Again, don't worry about perfection. If it separates or cracks a little bit, the pie is going to cook wonderfully. I'm going to turn on our oven. We're going to actually cook this in a portable air fryer oven. These are really popular now. We're actually going to try cooking our apple pie in this. First time I've ever tried that on the bake. On the bake setting. We want to start at 400. And what's really important here is it's going to be at 400 degrees for about 25 minutes. And because we're using a smaller oven and not a large oven, I'm going to put a sheet of tin foil over top of the pie just so that we don't, in that first part of baking, it looks really kind of unusual right now, but trust me, that's all going to melt down and bake on top of the apples. We're going to put in the oven like this. Just cover it loosely. Get her set up in our oven. It's just on a pre-cook right now, and that's going to, once it's ready to go, it's going to go, and we're going to cook that for about 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, we're going to take that tin foil off, and we're going to cook it another 30 minutes. So we'll be right back and we'll take a look at how this is coming along, and we're going to show you an ice cream recipe. Welcome back. We're almost partway through our pie here. We're just going to take a quick peek at that. Where did I put my gloves? They are, I'll just do it the old-fashioned way. But I'm going to show you, we did that for 30 minutes. We're going to take that tin foil off that I told you about. And then we're going to put it in here again for another 25 minutes, but this time at 350. So we've taken the temperature down to 350. We're going to put it at 25 minutes. And what I'm going to do, just a nice little touch for those of you bakers out there, we're just going to put a real quick egg wash on the top of that. That'll get that kind of golden brown. I don't have a fancy brush, so we're going to do it the old-fashioned way. spoon and push some of that. I'm avoiding touching it because, you know, it's hot in that oven. We'll put a little squash on there. All right. And we're going to stick that back in there. And get that started. So that's going to go for another 25 minutes or so. Now, what's better than apple pie? Apple pie with ice cream. So we're going to show you a really simple, easy recipe to make ice cream. Now, you need an ice cream maker. That's the catch. If you have an ice cream maker, you can make the ice cream the simplest way possible. For instance, we're going to use, this is called cinnamon cookie dough oat creamer. You can use a regular creamer, flavored creamers, whatever you like to use. You're going to put that in here, and we're going to fill it about 2/3 full. You can't see inside of it, but I'm going to put about 2/3. That's almost the whole container. We're going to add that in here. This is already flavored cinnamon cookie dough. We're going to add a little extra cinnamon in there. Make sure it's got lots of flavor. Okay. We're going to add a tiny bit of vanilla in there. I always like adding vanilla to anything that we're doing. And then you're going to have definitely a mixture of flavors. Now, all you need to do is you're going to turn that on. That's going to take about 20 minutes. And so we're at about 20 minutes, 25 minutes on the pie, and then we're going to have both of those done. And so I'm going to turn that on, and through the magic of television, we'll come back and we're going to have that finished up. All right, and through the magic of television, we're back, and looks like our ice cream is ready to go. Our pie is just finishing right this minute, and we're going to take a look at that. We're going to get that out of the oven. One thing, if you have never used these small ovens, the glass door very hot, so be very careful when you're using these. Obviously the same as any other regular oven, but I did notice that the doors on these are extremely hot. So I'm going to take that out. Now look at that, apple pie done in your little portable air fryer oven. So that's obviously if you were serving in this in your house, you would want to let that cool. You want to let it cool completely, because as it cools, it's going to thicken, and it makes it a lot easier to cut and slice. Our ice cream. So when you're making the ice cream, again, experiment with different creamers that you like, flavors that you like, whatever you want to add into it. We actually, during the break, decided to add some nuts to it. So it's going to be a little bit different. We'll see what it tastes like. We kind of did it on the run, but again, you buy whatever flavored creamer you're happy with and go from there. So I'm just going to put that aside. I got your ice cream scooper here. Back to the pie for a second. You can see, I'll grab my glove. You can see that when you use the egg wash, you kind of get that drizzle, you get that golden brown on the top. You can see that around the pie, you've definitely darkened. I think it's important in that first 25 minutes that if we hadn't tinfoiled this probably would have been a lot darker and might have burned, or might have gotten a lot darker. So looks like it's pretty much ready to go. Like I said, normally you're going to let this pie cool before you cut it. Cutting it and lifting it out of the tin foil is a lot more difficult when it's hot. Obviously we're a cooking show, so we're going to try to get it out there so you can take a look at it and see what it looks like. I'm just going to use a knife, cut that crust carefully, and see if we can get a slice of pie out of there for you to take a look at the inside. Feels like it should. It's pretty solid. And again, you got to kind of make sure you've cut that bottom crust. And we didn't use a lot of the liquid. We didn't make a lot of liquid. So if you make your your pie filling really, really wet, you're in danger of soaking that bottom crust. I think we did a pretty good job there. It doesn't feel too wet. We're going to give it a try and see if we can, let's move this a little closer, see if we can get it out of there so you can take a peek at it. Okay. And we're going to use our little ice cream scoop here. Put a little bit of ice cream on top. And who doesn't like apple pie and ice cream? So again, very simple recipe to make, apple pie. Anybody can make this. Again, you can buy store-bought ice cream, plop it on there just as easy. If you want to invest in an ice cream maker, you can make yourself ice cream every day if you like. So there it is, the easiest apple pie you'll probably come across. Anybody can make it, and hope you enjoy it. We'll see you next time.